Hello out there, friends. I hope you are doing very well. Today, I want to talk about one of the most important things that I think Nintendo really should do when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2. Of course, here in the middle of September of 2024, we are all waiting on pins and needles every single day for new information, a new update, or an official reveal from Nintendo about the Switch 2, or the next-gen Nintendo Switch successor, right? None of us really know what to call it. We've all been calling it the Switch 2 for a couple of years now because that's the best we have to go on. Yes, Furukawa did call it the Switch successor in that tweet a few months ago when he confirmed that they will be revealing it to us sometime soon, but there's still no actual name, so we call it the Switch 2. We don't even know if the thing is going to switch. We don't know if it's going to be a hybrid, even though it probably will. Even something as simple as that is still not confirmed. In fact, nothing is confirmed about the Switch 2 as we know, including the games. Whatever games might release alongside of it on day one, what other games we might be able to play within the first couple of months or even the first year of the Nintendo Switch 2's life. And of course, we're talking both first-party exclusive Nintendo games, as well as whatever third-party games might be coming. I actually expect Call of Duty, for example, to be one of the first major third-party games to release on the Switch 2 in the first year. Now, as I've discussed many times on this channel over the recent months and years, two things that I do expect to happen around or at the launch of the Switch 2 are, of course, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I am absolutely aboard the hype train of a Switch 2 version or a cross-gen release of that game happening by the time the Switch 2 launches. Of course, a new Mario game, which I even talked about in my last video. I do think a new Mario game is going to be releasing at or around launch for the Nintendo Switch 2 as well. And yes, we might also be getting a Mario Kart in the first year. We might be getting a new Animal Crossing. I would think that Smash Brothers is something we might see. Another new IP of some kind might also be returning. Rumors of things like an Ocarina of Time remake, or even the long-awaited Twilight Princess and Wind Waker ports. Maybe those actually release on the Switch 2 as opposed to the Switch. All of these things are certainly conversations and games on the table, but this helps segue me to the actual point of this video and this discussion I'm having with you guys today. And it has to do with, like I said, something I think Nintendo really should do and consider for the Switch 2, and that is releasing with some kind of free game. Now, for those of you older gamers out there alongside of me who remember way back in the day when every video game system used to come with some kind of initial free game, whether it's the NES, the Master System, the Genesis, the Super Nintendo, for many, many years in the 80s and 90s, it was the industry standard to make sure you had some kind of a game to play right out of the box with your brand new video game system. It was fantastic, it was very consumer friendly, and we loved it. Then that practice certainly seemed to go away for a while. Nintendo was one of the companies that kind of brought it back for a while when, as we all know, the Nintendo Wii launched in 2006, and it came with a free pack-in game, a tech demo of sorts, Wii Sports, which went on to be one of the many reasons that that system kind of integrated itself into many different homes and many different age groups and all sorts of different play styles and made it a very casual, friendly experience because Wii Sports was kind of a tech demo for the technology of the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. And while I didn't really care for it, we had a couple of drinking games and parties we played alongside of Wii Sports when it came out at the time. It really wasn't anything I super cared for, but it certainly made a massive impact, and like I said, helped lead to the Wii's absolutely smashing success. Nintendo, of course, then carried that on with the Wii U, a console that I constantly love and defend and still play to this very day, when they launched that console with Nintendo Land, which was a much better, much more fleshed out, and much more interesting free tech demo kind of experience, so that when you came home with your Wii U, just like when you came home with your Wii, without buying anything else, you had something that you could put inside of your console and play from day one for no extra money. It was awesome. Now, of course, as we all know, when the Nintendo Switch launched in 2017, there was no free game. After doing it 2 generations in a row, Nintendo, unfortunately, and I think mistakenly, abandoned that practice, and they didn't release a Switch with any kind of free game. Obviously, I say that it was a mistake, but let's be real. The Switch is the third best-selling piece of video game hardware of all time and sold more than the Nintendo Wii, so clearly they did enough things correct, but I still think it would have been a nice pro-consumer thing for them to do, but they didn't do it. The Switch came without any kind of game. Now, it is worth noting, the PlayStation 5, which launched in 2020, did come with a very relevant free game, which was Astrobot's Playroom, something that you could download for free by just basically buying your PlayStation 5. And let me tell you, Astrobot's Playroom is amazing, and it's very topical because, of course, Astrobot just released on the PlayStation 5. I discussed it in my last video. I think the game is a masterpiece. I just completed it a few days ago. It is almost a 10 out of 10 perfect platforming game. Absolutely spectacular, worth the price of admission for a PlayStation 5 alone. But before that, the kind of little Astrobot mini tech demo game was something that you could play on your PlayStation 5 for no extra money. Day one, you download it. You don't even have to take a disc home in the box. It's something that you download. And it's a great tech demo showcase for the incredible technology within the DualSense controller. So just like Wii Sports, Nintendo Land before it, it showcases the best uses and the technology of those respective controllers. Astrobot's Playroom did the same for the PlayStation 5. So in an era where Nintendo abandoned the free game, Sony re-embraced it this current generation with the PlayStation 5. And I gotta tell you, this is a smart, great, and like I've said a few times, very pro-consumer approach for any company releasing new hardware today. And so that's what takes us back to the incoming Nintendo Switch 2, something that we know is inevitably going to be revealed to us sometime fairly soon. A lot of conversation about it happening this coming week or before the end of September or even October. I personally think it will be revealed to us this month or next month, September or October. But of course, Nintendo already gave us the window between now and March of next year. So sometime in the next handful of months, we will see this thing and hopefully get details such as a release date, a price, and launch games. And one of the things that I think is so key and important for Nintendo to do, especially because we know they want to carry the momentum of the Switch into the Switch 2, they do not want to drop a strong user base transitioning from one console to another. I think if they have some kind of a free game, some sort of a tech demo example of whatever technology the Switch 2 will have, if they have that available for the Switch 2 on day one, it'll go a long way to keeping people invested in wanting to buy the Switch 2 and transition from the current Switch into that console right away. It really is a shame when you go back to the launch of the Switch that Nintendo chose to have a game like 1-2 Switch available on day one of that console's release, but sell it completely separately. It was not a free pack-in game. It was the exact perfect example of something that should have been a pack-in game because it was a wonderful showcase of the technology of the Joy-Cons, but they didn't pack it in. They sold it separately, and they sold it for a full price. It was $50 or $60. That, to me, is crazy. I played 1-2 Switch at the Nintendo Switch launch event in January in New York in 2017, and it was a lot of fun. I think it's certainly cool for what it is, but it wasn't a $50 or $60 worth kind of experience, and I know I think they sold a couple of million copies of that, so clearly from a business perspective, they made their money back on that game, and that's fine, but I think it was more important for them to have been pro-consumer and either pack that game in for free or at bare minimum have sold it for like $20 because it really was a $20 kind of experience. It was not a $50 or $60 kind of experience, and I think most people who have played it know that that's true. Now with the Switch 2, as I mentioned at the beginning, we don't really know what the console is going to be. There's a chance it's identical to the Switch in every way, shape, and form, including the Joy-Cons, including the technology within it, including the switching hybrid gimmick. Maybe it's the exact same, only like a lot more powerful. And if that's what it is, fine. And I still think they should have a free pack-in game, but something that's more like a 1-2 Switch kind of a thing to just give us some more fun things to do with the Joy-Cons. And it's something we can play right alongside our Switch 2 day one without having to buy another game. Now, if the Switch 2 does something beyond the Joy-Cons and the hybrid, if there's some additional new gimmick they're introducing, which I absolutely believe there will be, it is Nintendo's MO to innovate whenever possible. If they have something new that they're adding to the Switch 2 or the next console that we haven't seen before or thought of, it's even more important, in my opinion, for them to have some kind of free software. Even if they do what Sony did and they make it something that you just download once you turn your Switch 2 on at home, they should have something that we can play for no extra money that lets us enjoy our console right away and that shows us, hey, this technology on the controllers or the UI or the hybrid or whatever thing we've introduced with the Switch 2, here's some great examples of what you can do with it as a player and what developers can do as they continue to make games for the Switch 2 over the course of the next 6 or 7 years. Right now, at this phase of my life, guys, and this phase of my journey being a game fan of over 40 years, I am definitely in the era of really pushing for the industry and our favorite companies being as pro-consumer as possible. I am so sick of what I've seen happen in the gaming industry over the course of the last 15 to 20 years, where I've seen the industry become more and more anti-consumer, more and more greedy, more and more willing to take advantage of folks, and allowing the integration of the internet to erode the quality and the passion behind the video game industry and everything that's being developed in the industry. I've talked about this on recent videos this past week several times. The PS5 Pro was like a huge kickoff for my conversations around this kind of stuff. And so, yes, I think that it would be anti-consumer for the video game industry and for Nintendo to continue to abandon what used to be a standard practice in the 80s and 90s of having free software to play with your brand new console. That is anti-consumer. I don't want Nintendo to continue to be anti-consumer in that way. Sony brought it back with the PlayStation 5 and Astrobot's Playroom. I think it's more than acceptable for us to ask Nintendo to bring it back with some kind of a free software for the Switch 2. Whether it's a Switch Sports 2, whether it's a 1-2 Switch sequel or a 3-4 Switch, if it's a Nintendo Land 2, if it's some other random new IP concept, something that shows us why it's great to have the technology that the Switch 2 is going to allow us. It's really important to me. You know, it's not the kind of thing, look, I'm not going to be crazy. I'm not going to say that I won't buy the Switch 2 if there's not free software to play. I don't even know that I expect them to do this, but I think it's important. And I think that those of us who feel like I do, we should speak up and we should make it known that we think all companies, Nintendo and others, should continue and bring back this practice. Sony set a standard for this current generation by including Astrobot's Playroom. And that paved the way for the recently released Astrobot, which, like I said, is basically a 10 out of 10 game. And so I think that we should be vocal. We should feel very comfortable in saying, hey, Nintendo, we really hope you include some free software, just like you used to with the Nintendo Switch 2. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. I'm not saying that they have to have put in millions and millions of dollars that they won't get back into some kind of a free software, but something that's a free game. Just let us download it from home even. As much as I love my physical games, I think that a free tech demo kind of thing like Astrobot's Playroom is totally fine being digital. Something you open your Switch up at home and you download it and you've got it to play. So that's what I think should happen. I think it would be smart for Nintendo. As I alluded to earlier in this video, I also think it'll help with the transition from the Switch to the Switch 2 as well. We know that that's important for Nintendo. They're dancing a very fine line, abandoning the mega successful Switch and just having to release something new into the market. There's always the chance that it won't land the same way or that it won't be successful. I mean, the Wii U wasn't successful. You never know when that's going to happen again. And so by offering something free to play with the Switch 2 day one, I think that only increases the chances of the Switch 2 being a success and more people being excited to buy one and to play it and to own it. So these are my thoughts. Share what you think below. This is an important pro-consumer practice that I want Nintendo to bring back, and that's about it.